There is a common misconception that in the age of Google Earth, GP, and high-resolution satellite imagery, the world has been fully explored. We've mapped the seafloor, we've sent rovers to the Martian highlands, and we've stood on the summit of Mount Everest thousands of times. But if you look closely at the maps, past the tourist trails and the commercial base camps, you will find dead zones. These are the untouchables, mountains so formidable, so politically toxic, or so logistically cursed that they remain effectively invisible to the modern world. We aren't just talking about unclimbed peaks, we are talking about massifs where no base camp has ever been pitched and no modern reconnaissance has ever been completed. Why? The reasons vary from the terrifying to the absurd. Some are protected by ancient religious bans. Others are located in the heart of active, frozen battlefields where snipers watch the ridgelines. Some are so remote that the cost of reaching them is simply a non-starter for even the wealthiest expeditions. Today, we are venturing into the last true shadows on the globe. From the impenetrable jungles of Indonesia to the militarized ice of the Himalayas, these are the top 10 mountains that look impossible and why humanity is staying away. Number 10. Mount Osborn, Greenland. Our journey begins at the very edge of the world, Peary-land, northern Greenland. At 83 degrees north, this is the northernmost ice-free land on the planet. Here, rising like a jagged tooth from the frozen desert, is Mount Osborn. At 1,890 meters, it isn't the height that stops you, it's the isolation. Mount Osborn is roughly 700 kilometers from the nearest human settlement. There are no roads, no trees, and no rescue services. To even see this mountain, you must charter a long-range Twin Otter aircraft equipped with skis to land on the shifting sea ice during a blink, and you miss its summer window. But even if you land, the mountain is protected by the Arctic Gatekeeper. These are storms that can drop visibility to 0 in seconds and temperatures to minus 50 degrees Celsius, even in July. Danish explorer Egil Knuth, who spent decades in Peary-land, described these peaks as haunting, black sentinels that seem to belong to another geological era. Modern mountaineers have calculated the cost of a serious attempt at over $200,000 just for the flights. If you break a leg on Mount Osborn, there is no helicopter coming. You are, quite literally, more alone than an astronaut on the International Space Station. For most, that price, both in gold and in risk, is simply too high. Number 9. The Foja Massif, Indonesia. Moving from the ice to the jungle, we find an unnamed summit deep in the Indonesian province of Papua, the Foja Mountains. This is a place scientists call the Lost World. In 2005, an international team of researchers was dropped into the interior by helicopter. Within hours, they discovered dozens of new species, including the golden-mantled tree kangaroo and birds that were previously thought to be extinct. But while the scientists stayed in the lowlands, the highest summits of the Foja range remain untouched. Why? Because the Foja Mountains are a vertical jungle. There are no trails. The terrain consists of razor-sharp limestone karst covered in a layer of slippery, waist-deep moss and mud. Imagine trying to climb a mountain while hacking through a wall of vines, surrounded by some of the most venomous snakes on Earth, in 100% humidity where your gear rots in days. The climb here isn't about technical rock skills, it is about surviving the green hell. Local indigenous communities consider the high peaks sacred or forbidden, and the Indonesian government has locked the region behind a wall of conservation permits that are almost never granted to adventure seekers. To the world, the Foja summits remain a silhouette in the mist. Number 8. Kwanmosan, North Korea. In the Hamgyeong range of the world's most secretive nation lies Kwanmosan, a 2,540-meter peak that is a victim of 21st-century geopolitics. In most countries, a 2,500-meter peak would be a weekend hiking destination. In North Korea, it is a military fortress. Unlike Mount Paektu, which the North Korean government promotes for ideological tourism, Kwanmosan is located in a high-security closed zone. Foreigners are strictly banned from the region. Even for North Korean citizens, travel to this province requires special state permits that are rarely issued for recreational purposes. The mystery of Foja Massif is fueled by a total lack of data. There are no high-resolution ground photos, no GPS trail maps. Our only knowledge of the mountain comes from the 1950s Soviet military topographical surveys and modern satellite imagery. Mountaineers from South Korea have spent decades looking at this peak through long-range lenses across the border, waiting for a day when the political climate shifts. Until then, Foja Massif remains a ghost, a mountain that is visible from the sky but unreachable from the earth. Number 7. The Arakanyoma Peak, Myanmar. On the rugged border between Myanmar and India sits an unnamed 3,000-meter peak that is protected by a double barrier. The first barrier is the weather. This region in Chin State receives some of the highest rainfall on the planet. During the monsoon, the mountains literally begin to dissolve. Landslides are a daily occurrence, and the jungle grows so fast it can swallow a trail in a week. The second barrier is far more dangerous, the Shadow War. This region has been a theater of conflict for decades between ethnic resistance groups and the Myanmar military. The border itself is a militarized restricted zone. To an army patrol, a group of people carrying heavy backpacks and high-tech gear doesn't look like mountaineers. They look like insurgents or smugglers. There are no rescue helicopters, no insurance policies that cover this zone, and no government willing to sign a climbing permit. The mountain hasn't been properly surveyed since the British Empire left the region in the 1940s. It stands as a reminder that sometimes the most effective nature preserve is a zone of civil unrest. Number 6. The bureaucratic border, Central Asia. High in the Tian Shan Range, the mountains of heaven, lies a specific nightmare for explorers. This is the case of the border peaks between Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. The most famous example of this is the area surrounding the Talgar Massif. Now, technically, the main summit of Talgar was reached in the Soviet era, but today, its surrounding sister peaks have become the untouchables. Following the collapse of the Soviet Union, the border between these two nations became a maze of checkpoints, restricted zones, and no man's lands. To attempt to climb here today, you don't need an ice axe, you need a team of lawyers. You must obtain military border zone permits from two different governments that often have strained relations. Even with the papers in hand, local border guards, often isolated and suspicious, have been known to turn expeditions back at gunpoint, claiming the area is closed for exercises. Because the peaks sit directly on the line of sovereignty, they have become a political radioactive zone. It is a mountain range that exists in a state of permanent, indefinite closure. Number 5. Mount Sosa, Antarctica. Mount Sosa is perhaps the most honest mountain on this list. It doesn't care about your politics or your permits. It simply relies on the physics of the Antarctic interior to keep you away. Located in the Heritage Range, Mount Sosa is 1,200 kilometers from the nearest human outpost. To reach it, you have to play a game of logistical dominoes. First, you fly a massive cargo plane from Chile to a blue ice runway at Union Glacier. Then, you must charter a specialized ski plane to fly you even deeper into the wilderness. The cost of fuel alone for these flights is enough to buy a luxury home. But once you are dropped off, you are at the mercy of the katabatic winds. These are gravity-driven winds that fall off the Antarctic plateau, reaching speeds of over 200 kilometers per hour. They can shred a high-altitude tent in seconds and bury a base camp in hours. Because of the extreme distance, if a storm rolls in, the rescue plane can't take off. You are stuck in a minus 40-degree void. Polar legend Conrad Anker once noted that in the Antarctic interior, the mountain is the easy part. Surviving the commute is the real challenge. Number 4. Ko-i-Urgunt, Afghanistan. In the 1960s and 70s, the Hindu Kush Mountains of Afghanistan were the new frontier for global climbing. But in 1979, the Soviet Union invaded and the door slammed shut. It has stayed shut for over 40 years. Ko-e-Urgunt is a 6,000-meter pyramid in the Wakhan corridor. While it saw a handful of visits in the pre-war era, it has become a blank slate for modern mountaineering. The region is a security nightmare. The approach requires navigating through areas that are still heavily mined from decades of conflict. There is no central authority to grant a climbing permit, and even if you had one, the local security is provided by whoever holds the high ground that day. For 40 years, no modern gear, no high-resolution GPS, and no advanced climbing techniques have touched this peak. It remains frozen in 1979, a mountain that might as well be on the dark side of the moon, protected by 40 years of unbroken conflict. Number 3. Samogangri, Tibet. Deep in the northern Tibetan plateau lies the Changtang, a high-altitude wilderness the size of France with a population of almost zero. In the center of this void is Samogangri, a 6,380-meter ice dome. The barrier here is the dead zone. The plateau itself sits at an average elevation of 5,000 meters. To even reach the base of Samogangri, you have to drive for days across a trackless wilderness where the oxygen is half of what it is at sea level. There is no water, no wood for fire, and no shelter. The Chinese government considers the Changtang a sensitive military and ecological zone. Permits are systematically denied to foreigners. In the 1990s, a few explorers managed to sneak into the region, describing it as the most lonely place on Earth. Samogangri is protected by the sheer scale of the landscape. It is a mountain that doesn't need a fence. The environment itself is the prison. Number 2, Keshnikan, the Tri-Point. Imagine a mountain that belongs to everyone and no one. Keshnikan sits at the Tri-Point, the exact spot where Afghanistan, Tajikistan, and Pakistan meet. In the world of diplomacy, this is a no man's land. Because the borders are disputed and constantly shifting, no single government will take responsibility for the mountain. If you ask Tajikistan for a permit, they say it's Afghan territory. If you ask Afghanistan, they say it's a restricted Pakistani border zone. This administrative limbo makes it impossible to legally approach the mountain. Furthermore, the Tri-Point is a hub for unofficial movement, smugglers, and militants. This means the peaks are monitored by long-range military sensors and drones from 3 different nations. Anyone seen on the upper slopes of Keshnikan wouldn't be greeted as a climber. They would be treated as a high-value target. It is a mountain protected by the fact that it is too politically sensitive to exist. Number 1. Gangkhar Puensum, Bhutan. And finally, we reach the undisputed king of the unapproachable, Gangkhar Puensum. At 7,570 meters, it is the highest unclimbed mountain in the world. But unlike the others on this list, it is not climbed because of war or money. It remains unclimbed because of a promise. In the 1980s, a few expeditions attempted the peak and failed due to its immense technical difficulty and incorrect maps. Then, in 1994, the Kingdom of Bhutan made a historic decision. They banned all mountaineering above 6,000 meters out of respect for local spiritual beliefs. In Bhutanese culture, the high peaks are not conquests. They are the homes of the gods and the spirits of the ancestors. To climb them is seen as an act of profound disrespect, a spiritual intrusion. By 2003, Bhutan banned mountaineering entirely. While the northern side of the mountain sits on the Chinese border, China has largely respected the ban to avoid diplomatic conflict with Bhutan. Gangkhar Puensum is protected by a cultural shield. It is a mountain that humanity has collectively agreed to leave alone. It stands as a final, towering reminder that just because we can climb something, we do not necessarily should. It is the world's last great blank spot, and if the people of Bhutan have their way, it will remain that way forever. In an era where every first seems to have been claimed, these 10 mountains offer something rare: mystery. They remind us that the world is still big. They remind us that nature, politics, and spirituality can still create boundaries that even our best technology cannot cross. Some people look at these mountains and see a challenge to be conquered. Others look at them and see a sanctuary, a place where the earth can still be itself, without a flag planted in its summit or a selfie taken on its ridge. Which of these do you think will be the first to be attempted? Would you risk the green hell of the Fojas or The frozen bureaucracy of Central Asia? Or do you believe, as they do in Bhutan, that some places are better left untouched? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to explore more of the world's most forbidden places, make sure to subscribe. Until next time, keep looking at the map, but don't forget to look at the blanks.